Joining us now, you can follow him on Twitter at Not Larry Sabato, a good friend of the family's and an intellectual giant of his time, Ben Tribbett. Ben, good to have you, man.
Good morning, John. How are you?
Never better. Okay, let's get to politics. So I'm at Chad Planking on Friday, Ben, and we're having a good time. A lot of people are there. And a plane is flying overhead with one of those banners. Ever see, those banners they have behind it flying around? And the banner that is flying, Ben, and there's pictures of it all over the internet, is the Stars and Bars, which I've been told by some, stop calling it the Confederate flag. It's the battle flag of Northern Virginian Army, but most people identify it as the Confederate battle flag, the Stars and Bars. And on a side of it says, vote Corey Stewart for governor June 13th. That's an odd strategy, Ben, don't you think?
Yeah, not only is it an odd strategy, I mean, Corey is just grasping, and I don't even know how to respond to all the different things his campaign is trying to do. He's imploding himself in his own county of Prince William. Every elected official, Republican in the county, has now come out against his candidacy or refused to endorse him. Some of the people who had endorsed him have flipped. I mean, it is just so offensive, and I can't figure out how he thinks this is going to help him get elected. I know he needs attention to catch up to Ed Gillespie, but not all attention gets you votes. Mm-hmm. And I think that he took the wrong lesson from the Trump campaign. He's not Donald Trump. And Trump could get away with some of this because he had universal name ID.
Right.
And he also had 30 years of being a public figure where people knew a little bit about his personality coming in. Corey Stewart, people don't know anything about him. This is how he's introducing himself.
Yeah.
They're not amused. They're not doing well. You can't continue to, just try to get attention and expect people to vote for you. And he's unraveling his ability. I thought at the start of the cycle, maybe Corey could be competitive with Ed Gillespie. If he got going, and got some momentum and got the insurgent vote,
right? Maybe
he could do it.
Right.
Ed's not that strong, but Corey seems like he's going in the wrong direction right now, and just headed for a complete and total implosion in June.
I really don't understand what they're doing, and I'm kind of with you. It defies commentary. I saw that, and I guess if they didn't pay for it or orchestrate it, they would have squawked like we had nothing to do with this instead and demanded. They're just flying over there for an hour. It's kind of beyond me. Whatever they're doing, though, is not working in Prince William County, and these are just the facts. 3 supervisors there in Prince William that work with Corey have now backed Gillespie on Sunday, plus Sheriff Glendale Hill of Prince William is the most senior elected black Republican in the state of Virginia. He had originally endorsed Corey Stewart. Now he changed that, rescinded his endorsement over this flag thing, and he's backed Ed Gillespie, as did the other 3 people I mentioned. I don't have time to go into their names, but 3 supervisors that serve with them. So look, if you're losing backing in your own county, I just don't see where the strategy is going. I guess there's some people that feel that, he's carrying some sort of mantle for them, but I don't see how you win a primary, how you get elected. I don't even know if he can get elected as chairman again, maybe, but it seems weird what he's doing. I've never quite seen anything like it.
Yeah, he's destroying his reputation. It's going to be hard for him to even get reelected as chairman after this because regardless of the local issues, what he's doing is so divisive.
Right.
And I think that if he didn't get the message before that what he was doing was divisive, he should be hearing it now when Republicans in his own county are pulling their endorsement.
Yeah, I think it's one thing to be tough on an issue. It's another thing to be wrapping yourself in. Like we were talking earlier, Civil War ended in 1864. Why are we even talking about this, right? You and I have spent 7 minutes on it. It's like ridiculous. All right, let's get to the Gillespie campaign. Nothing seems to stop them. They got $3 million in the bank, huge sum of money. The advertising is going to come. The avalanche is going to come at the end of May, starting in 2 weeks in June. How do you stop them?
I don't know if they're stoppable at this point in the primary. It's interesting, John, because we assume that both Gillespie and then the Democrats running will have to spend all the money they're raising in this primary. Gillespie may not have to. I mean, if Corey Stewart continues to just completely blow up like this, and I don't think Frank Wagner's getting much traction at all, Ed Gillespie may be able to save a significant amount of his money for the general election.
Right. Which is going to be helpful. It seems like Gillespie has a level of momentum now, and then I know he's going to spend over $1 million in TV ads in the last 2 weeks. I think unless something dramatic happens, he's going to be the nominee. Let's get to the Democratic side. Tom Perriello getting a lot of criticism over the fact that half the money he raised, and it is a significant amount, right? $1.7 million. I mean, he's right there. That came from 5 donors. And so they say, well, Jeff Shapiro, for instance, blasted him in the Richmond Times-Dispatch with a column and said, this is a candidacy of hypocrisy. He goes around saying he's a man of the people, but he's not getting $27 donations average like Bernie Sanders. 5 donors have funded 50% of his campaign. And he says that, Perriello really hasn't come clean on that. Does it matter? What say you?
I don't think it matters. I will say that since the last time we talked, John, I think that when we left a couple of weeks ago, things were looking down for Ralph Northam. And it seemed like Perriello had all the momentum. I think that's been blunted a little bit. In fact, what I'm seeing now is a much more even environment. I think that Perriello got his punches in, and Ralph sort of survived them. As we said before, one of the big wins that the Northam campaign got, and it was not. I'm not sure they even were attempting to get it, but they sort of stumbled into it. Was this debate schedule? I mean, last night was the first forum between Ralph Northam and Tom Perriello. I know there's 8 debates and forums that are coming up. Did you hear anything about it? Did you watch it? No, there's too many. And because of that, there's no urgency to watch it. So I looked at the live feeds of both of their Facebook pages during the forum. I think Ralph had 11 people on it, and Tom had 89 or something. I mean, it's 100 people combined that are watching the live streams. This is getting no traction at all. And Tom could have used the traction of high-profile debates, but I think they've scheduled too many of them. That's going to really cut down the number of people that are watching this.
Well, that's interesting. And you said that the fact that there was 8 debates was going to help Northam and hurt Perriello. You thought if there was 1 or 2 or there was 2 or 3, they would be high profile. They would be televised. It would be a big deal. Now it's not. And so and you thought that Perriello would do better in a one-on-one debate anyway, but there's too many of them. So like you said, last night, live feed 100 people. Who cares?
Right.
No,
I mean,
no traction.
I was waiting for you to ask me about it, and I'm not sure. Do you even know it happened?
Vaguely. I mean, I remember reading that the first one was Sunday, but I'll be honest with you, there was basketball games on, and I said to myself, well, there's another 5 or 6 of them. I'll catch one of those.
That's exactly the problem when you have 8 debates.
Yeah, there's just too many of them. So how do you rate this now?
I rate it right now as it's volatile, but Perriello is the one who has to do the work to turn out the sort of insurgent vote. Northam's vote will come. It's the establishment vote, so you know that they'll be at the polls, and so you always say that until Perriello eclipses Northam, Northam has the advantage because his people are older, more reliable, and the party establishment folks.
Right.
Perriello's run a heck of a campaign. I mean, it's going to be, but he has to get over the top. And he's going to have to get over the top by getting a share of the traditional primary electorate in addition to the people that he's bringing in to the process. And Perriello still has a lot of work to do with that.
So when we talked a couple of weeks ago, there was a Quinnipiac poll, I think, that had come out showing Perriello up by 5. Then there was a PPP poll, which showed likely Democratic voters, which is what the Northam campaign has been telling me, that you have to look at likely Democratic voters. That showed him up by 15 or 16. It was a big number. And they said, look, that mirrors our internal polls. And so my question is, Ben, which of these polls you think is accurate? And do they really have any idea who's going to turn out on June 13th in the Democratic primary because of all the upheaval?
Well, you don't know exactly who's going to turn out. I will say this about the PPP poll, and I would say of all the public pollsters that PPP is the one that I look to the closest. I have a lot of respect for. They do very good work. You can tell when they put out stuff, it turns out to be accurate frequently. However, this poll was paid for by the Virginia Education Association. The VEA has made an endorsement in this race. And the one thing that I felt like sort of got underreported from this poll, and I'm just sharing with you, John, this is just my take on it, but Virginia law says you can't access a voter file unless you're a political party or a candidate. There's no other way to get a hold of the voter file. So the Virginia Education Association doesn't have the voter file. So they don't know who the likely voters are. The only way they could poll likely primary voters is if someone with access to the voter file, e.g., the candidate they're supporting, right, gave them the file. Well, if Ralph's campaign gave them the voter list to call or the file to do the call from, that's fine, but that makes it like an internal poll. It's not like a public poll. Because the way that it was, if you have to coordinate some of the poll questions or the poll audience or anything else with the campaign, then it's like an internal. So I take those numbers more being like the Northam internals, and they should match the Northam internals because it essentially was a Northam internal that was designed to be released. And I think it's actually accurate if that's what the electorate looks like. But frequently, when one campaign says my internals say this and the other one says my internals say that, it's because they have two different universes they're talking to.
Right.
Both numbers could be right.
Right.
So this seemed like a poll that was done out of the Northam universe because there's no other way that the VEA would get a statewide voter list of likely voters. That's why you don't see most polls poll likely voters in a primary, because they don't have access to the data to tell you who the likely voters are.
Right, because the only access are the political party or the campaign, not the polling company, so they have to go by a different standard. We're out of time. I want to thank Ben Tribbett for being with us. Fired up that the Caps are moving on to play the Penguins, home opener Thursday night. And good luck to your Capitals there. Ben, thanks for being with us. You want to follow him on Twitter at Not Larry Sabato, at Not Larry Sabato. Ben, thanks for being with us. I'll be in D.C. for the next 2 weeks. I'm sure we'll catch up one night. Thanks so much, Ben Tribbett.
We'll catch up on a poker table.
Sounds good. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. Me and Ben going to MGM Grand. I'll be right back.